In this short video, storyteller Annie Stewart tells the story of Mook Mook the owl. You can use words and actions to tell this simple story to your own children. Telling stories with your children helps them develop language and literacy. It's also a great way to have fun together.
Did you know I have a niece that was born in the Northern Territory of Australia? And when the Aboriginal people saw her big, beautiful blue eyes, they thought she looked like a little baby owl. So they called her Mook Mook. So what you have to do is put your hand up and pretend this is Mook Mook the owl. And Mook Mook is and sometimes kids like the leaves blowing in the wind. If you want to do that, you can do it. So I'll do it first and then you have to join in. Mook Mook sat in the branch of a tree. It was night, and her eyes were open like this, and she looked all around, not a thing did she miss. Two mice started creeping up the trunk of the tree, and they stopped close to the branch. See what they could see. The solemn old owl went, twit, twit! Up jumped the mice, and down they flew. Okay, everybody, your turn to join in. Get yourselves ready. Open like this, and she looked all around, not a thing to miss. Two mice started creeping up the trunk of the tree and they stopped just below the window. See what that was. So up jumped the mice and down they flew. Ah, excellent work.
This short video about dental care shows you how to care for children's teeth. It includes advice on encouraging children to drink tap water, brushing children's teeth as soon as the first ones are through, avoiding sugary drinks, and not taking bottles of milk to bed.
Children shouldn't have bottles in bed. So if you feed them milk, they never take breast to bed, they shouldn't take a bottle to bed, because what happens, whilst it may help them sleep, it's just bathing the whole mouth in sugar the whole night.
A lot of people put lemonade and Coke in their bottle, which I'm totally against, but I know a lot of mothers do it. The sugar just eats at their teeth because they constantly got it in their mouth.
In relation to water, I would always boil the water up until they were 12 months, and then I just gave them water from the tap.
The best drink for a child of any age is water from the tap, and child can drink water in between meals.
In most urban and suburban areas, tap water is clean and has added fluoride to protect against tooth decay. You can start teeth brushing habit as soon as babies sprout some teeth.
But there is no need to use toothpaste until they are about 18 months old.
In this video, our expert explains how puppet play helps children's emotional and social development. Through puppets, children can express themselves, figure out who they are and say what they think and how they feel. Children also use puppets to explore relationships and social interactions.
Playing with puppets is great for children. It's a really wonderful chance for them to explore pretending to be characters. It's a great way for them to express themselves, to start to understand who they are, and perhaps even talk about how they're feeling or how, what they think of the world through a puppet. And a lot of children who might be a little bit shy, you'll find, are able to talk and play quite animatedly through a puppet. But it's also about, if they are manipulating the puppet, there's actually a lot of fine motor skills and a lot of connection between understanding how the character speaks and even moving their hand in time with the words. That's something that they're practicing, which can be quite a complex thing to learn. When we're playing with language and stories and we're playing with characters, children are learning about the very complex world of relationships, of families, of people, how they relate to each other. There's this wisdom that's passed on through stories, and puppets are part of that, the wisdom of stories. We're learning about language, we're building our vocabulary, we're making connections between cause and effect in stories. We're learning the cultural arc of stories, beginning, middle and end, and entertaining and interacting with other people, all sorts of elements connected to their development.
A bit of risk in play lets children test their limits, as experts explain in this video. When children come across risky play situations, it challenges them to learn new skills. You can support your child through these situations with encouragement and advice. And with practice, children gain the skills and confidence they need to handle risks and challenges by themselves. This is why risk in play is important for child development.
Risk is a fundamental part of play. It's not about putting children in dangerous situations. It's about saying that children need to test their own boundaries and their limits. So, on a practical sense, there's a difference between a risk and a hazard. A hazard is something that the child can't see for themselves, that's in their environment, that could, cause serious injury. So, for example, a hazard when you're playing outside might be a big hole in the ground that's sort of covered up and you can't see that it's there. So if you ran, your foot might drop in and it'd be likely that you'd break your leg. Whereas a risk might be that there is a large sort of hole in the yard or something like that, but a child can see it and they can test how deep it is and maybe walk on its uneven surface. So if we take away all the risk in play, we're taking away the opportunity for children to learn how to do things for themselves. And that's so fundamental. There will come a time where they need to know the limits of their bodies, where they need to know how to socially or emotionally stop or say no. They need those skills for themselves. A nice way to think about challenging your child is really to ask them to try and do things for themselves. If they're getting a bit stuck with something, say they're halfway up a tree and they start to get stressed and worried, we can support them. I'm right here, you can do it, but maybe challenging them by maybe just talking them through how to get down. Just take a deep breath and maybe try popping your foot here. You're all right, you got up there, you'll be able to get down. So talking them through it instead of actually physically moving their legs or pulling them down from the tree, in which case they're not learning how to do it themselves. So leaving an element of that challenge for them will extend their abilities because, again, they're kind of playing on the edge of what their capabilities are and they're learning how to do new things. The next time that they do it, they'll be just that little bit more competent and that little bit more competent until they're up and down there in a flash without even thinking about it. Play is all about testing. It's all about trying things out. So give them a chance. Allow them to test things out, try things out. Allow them to fail. Allow them to make mistakes because that's how they learn.
In this short video, parents share thoughts on the issue of smacking children. They say that it's important to recognize that your child's behavior can frustrate you. But you should also understand that smacking isn't good for children's behavior and emotional development.
Give him a bit of a tap. Children can drive you to the point where you do just want to, just really smack them, shove them into the wall, do whatever. You have these, not fantasies, but you have these visions sometimes of doing it.
It's important to be in control of your own feelings, especially because they're so observant of it.
They're flipping out over whatever it is, or they're chucking a tantrum. And the irony is, you then nearly chuck an adult tantrum to try and control them. So you're then smacking them, which is, the irony is you've lost control and you're trying to correct them for losing control.
It just teaches a child to smack and to hit. So if you smack and hit them and then they're playing with a friend and a friend does something that they don't like and they smack and hit, and then you tell them, don't smack and hit, it's not sending very clear messages. And that's what I think discipline's about, setting boundaries and having clear messages about what you can do and what you can't do.
If you smack a child and they go to school and they're decking everybody's heads in, you can't do anything about it because that's what you're teaching them.
I want them to come to me with problems or come home and say, Mum, I got my first girlfriend and had my first kiss and all this. Basically, I want them to tell me what I couldn't tell my mother. And I don't believe in hitting kids. No.
You're either going to make them aggressive, depending on their personality, or you're going to make them submissive and scared of you. And I don't want a child that's scared of me. I want a child that respects me.
In this short video, migrant worker Halim Duzan and parents from diverse cultural backgrounds talk about bilingualism and speaking two languages. They say learning English is important, but it's also good to keep speaking your family's first language at home. It helps children stay connected to their communities and talk to their relatives.
It is very important for parents to keep their own language, because parents themselves are very comfortable with their own language, and then easy to talk about their emotion, their feelings.
I'm speaking at home, it's more Turkish, because I think it's important for the first language.
I think it's very important for young children to grow up and learn with their own language, to belong with their community when they go to their own soccer club, or they go to own festivals.
If I want to go one day to Lebanon, I like my kids to speak Arabic like the other people, not sit and watch, I'm not understanding, Mum, sorry, take me to home.
When they go to school, they need English very well, but with our community and with communication with parents, they need especially our language.
It's very important to let them to learn their own mother tongue language. And also, of course, it's important to talk with English as well, and reading books in English and reading books their own languages. No problem at all. Children are very intelligent, very clever. Just they need look for resources to learn a lot.
In future, he has to learn English, because in Australia, speak English. At home, everywhere they speak English.
I can help my kids with Arabic, but I cannot help in English. So now I want to go an English course for help my kids and help myself as well.
I think it's very important for parents to learn English, moms to learn English, or dads to learn English, so they can read with their children at home and sing, and then the children feel like, I think it's help the children to integrate outside the home culture.
I'm shy, but just small words, speak the English, more in the speak Turkish.
Parents can talk English with their children, or sit down and watch play school with them, or go to kinder and play with the other children in the kindergarten, or read English book together and sing a song in English.
With the play school program, very good ABC, because they can hear that pronunciations, and then she learned and I helped her too.
In this short video, storyteller Randy Stewart tells a story about a man who tries to catch the crocodile that has been eating his chickens. You can see how to tell a simple story to your own children using words and actions. Stories like this are fun for children, and help them develop language and literacy.
The crocodile hunt. So, mums, if you'd like to do it as well. Okay, here we go. You have to do what I do. You ready? So once upon a time, there was an old man who woke up one morning and stretched. Come on, everyone, big stretch. And he leant over and kissed his rock. Kiss your rock, and he said, I'm sick and tired of it. That crocodile keeps eating all my chickens and I never get eggs for breakfast. I never catch him today. So he walked out the front door and down the garden path. Come on, everyone, come down the garden path. And when he got to the front gate, he opened the gate. Bang! Now he couldn't see the crocodile when he came to a field of tall grass. He sneak through here. So everybody would sneak through the grass quietly. Now he couldn't see the croc, but he came to a hill and thought, you know what? If I climb to the top of the hill, I won't see the crocodile. So he started to climb to the top of the hill and everybody climbing. And when he got to the top of the hill, he looked down, and there was his lovely wife in the garden. So he called out to her, hello! Back down the other side of the hill. And just then he came to a big dark river. And so I reckon the crocodile was in the cave. But just as he got to the other side, what did he see but two big crocodile eyes and a great big crocodile jaw? Get your jaws ready, everybody, and the crocodile went snap! He said, oh no, I think that crocodile's going to eat me. We better get out of here. So now, boys and girls, we're going to go back the way we came, as quick as we can. Are you ready? Swim up the hill. Hello to your wives. Hello! Back the hill. Every day. Bam! Up and down. Kiss your wife. Back to bed. Back to sleep. Ah, give yourselves a clap. Very good.
In this short video, storyteller Annie Stewart talks about telling stories with children. She says storytelling promotes literacy and language and gets children ready to start reading. Stories about family and culture also give children a sense of their place in the world. You can use actions and rhymes to get children involved in the stories you tell.
Storytelling plays a really crucial role in children's upbringing because it's here they're introduced to language and literature, the rhythm of words, the pattern. They're all starting to build in their little heads. And when they come to reading, they're at a great advantage because they've understood. Once upon a time, telling stories to children also sort of fosters imagination, where they start to come to some understandings of the world they're living in. Well, I've been telling stories for a long time in libraries over the years, and I've found that children will believe anything you tell them, and you can use anything to tell them. I think I've used toilet roll holders with pipe cleaners stuck to them to make a whole little family. I'll tell a story with a apple, or I'll cut it in half and reveal a beautiful star. I have all sorts of things I'll pull out of the jar. So maybe when parents were starting to think about storytelling, maybe an item that was a treasured thing they'd had from their childhood, maybe a photo that was taken years and years ago. All these things are to prompt language.
Then the mom can, hello my dear kitty.
One of the ways to really involve your children in storytelling is perhaps put a bit of action in it. Sometimes I have little rhymes and I'll make children look around and trees in it. So I'm just trying to engage them and getting them to take part in the story. So having those actions really helps. Every opportunity has a story behind it. And what you're really doing as a parent is trying to get them to listen to language and be ready when they get to school. But one of the other things that I think is really important about storytelling, and for me it was always crucial, is I think your family, your kids should have an understanding of the family and who you are and what your stories are. So that's such a wonderfully rich opportunity for storytelling. Who are you? Where are your people from? When did they come to Australia? What was your favourite story as a child? All these things are stories that you could be telling as children. things that children really love is to hear them in stories. So what's something you remember as a little child? Maybe you could put your child in a situation. Maybe they're scared about their first day at school and you're going to tell a little story about that brave day when they got the opportunity. If you put your child in a story, it brings them into the whole notion of words and music in words and being part of that event of a story. If you're heading off somewhere with your kids, take a bit of time, do a bit of research and find out what you can about where you're going, the locations, and make a real story out of it. And that'll bring enjoyment to the kids. They'll want to really be part of it because they'll feel it in the story. And this is just another way of getting them introduced to their country, their land, their stories, their people. Everything has a story to it. And it's that language development that you're wanting your kids to take on. So everywhere's a chance for story. When they're having a bath, maybe if they're anxious about something coming up the next day, you've got a little story that you're going to just tell them, just to put them a little bit at ease. Of course, bedtime is a favourite time for stories. Having tea, sitting around the table. There's so many different occasions where just informally you should be talking to the children.
You can actually grow things that you use, says a parent featured here. The children in this video learn to recognize herbs through sight and smell. With Dad, they decide which ones are good for dinner and pick them. It's a great way to start a lifelong love for fresh food.
Let's get some herbs for the stir fry. Remember when we planted these ages ago?
Oh, yeah.
I think they're pretty much ready to go. Do you remember which ones we planted there? So that was parsley. That was thyme.
This one was? Oh, that's what it was.
Let's just scrunch it up and smell it. What does it smell like? Mint. Isn't it minty? It's just like toothpaste, isn't it? Now, which one, Sam, do you reckon would be good in the stir fry? What we try to do is to help kids, even in a very small way, to see how that whole sort of cycle works. You can actually grow things that you use. What do you reckon, Faith? Shall we put some parsley in there? Yeah. So do you want to pluck some parsley? Pluck a few of the leaves. Yeah, try and get it with the stem, like get those ones. A bit of mint, you think? Okay. Do you pluck a few leaves of mint? Sam, do you think thyme would be good in the stir fry?
Maybe. Thyme's also good for pizza or something.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a great idea. Which is your favourite as well, Faith? The mint? I think I agree. I think that's my favourite.
Mine's
as
the
well.
thyme.
Thyme is good. What does that feel like? They feel kind of soft.
Bubbles.
Yeah, do you feel bubbles? I think parsley gives a nice fresh taste to things.
Yeah, me too.
Did you smell the parsley? You guys did a good job looking after these.
Thanks.
And making them grow. Thanks very much. Beautiful work. Family activity, and especially if you've got a bit of extra time on the weekend, it's a nice way to spend a morning. All right, guys, let's get these into the kitchen. Away you go, Sam.
Yeah.
Go, Faithy.
Some
Fantastic, thanks guys. Sweet. Right in.
In this video, our expert shares ideas for using all types of balls in children's play. Balls are great for physical play like kicking and catching, but balls can also spark children's imagination too. For example, your child could turn ping pong balls into monster eyes. Try sports balls and balls of different shapes, Sizes and textures.
Balls are fantastic for kids. They are a fantastic open-ended toy. From babies all the way through to 10 and 12-year-olds can be playing amazing games with balls. You can play with them outside, you can play with them inside. And when we're thinking about playing with balls, you can think about all the different shapes and sizes of balls and maybe the textures of balls. So something as small as a pom-pom, which is fluffy, is a really different experience to play with than, you know, a big, heavy basketball. Balls of different sizes and shapes are good for kicking or catching. Ping pong balls are great, especially for quite young children, because they're a good size. You can hold it in their hand. But we can also ask ourselves, what else could this be? What else could this round shape be? Could it be the moon? Could it be my eyeballs? You know, could I create a monster character from these ping pong balls on my eyes? You know, there's so many different ways you can go. And the great thing about this is that it doesn't cost much at all. It's fun, and it's accessible for all ages and all abilities.